Down the line, I think more and more people will sort of skip the web and go straight into mobile. And when, especially now that mobile, it's your life.
10 years ago, maybe you have the smartphone, but you don't really know how to use it. I mean, you use a smartphone like feature phone, just for call, or text, and SMS. But now the digital consumer, thanks to Facebook, Google, and many like the largest internet company here, so they change their behavior.
So luckily, Vietnam have a huge number of mobile subscribers. It's over 100 million subscribers per 90 million population.
I think the main reach now to young people in Vietnam is actually mobile only. So if you have products that skip any mobile experiences, then you will lose like more than 50% of the population.
In Vietnam, the mobile penetration is huge. Everyone has at least one smartphone, and also the 3G connection is good and it's cheap, and also the Wi-Fi have in every coffee shop, every corner, every street, and every office.
Vietnam is among the top 3 growing smartphone markets worldwide with a growth rate of 25% per year from 2014 to 2015. The smartphone penetration currently is around 55%, which is the highest penetration rate in Southeast Asia. Also special in this market is Vietnam is mobile-first country, and normally Vietnamese spend an average of 3 hours a day in the smartphone.
Vietnam has always leapfrogged over technology. I remember when I first came here many years ago, I could hardly find any landline, and then overnight, literally overnight, everyone is on a mobile phone. Then we talked about Wi-Fi internet connection, and then and I think Vietnam is one of the first few countries to develop 3G network. Yes, we may not have the most advanced or the best infrastructure, but I think at this point in time, it is, for what the country is, I think it's good enough to further evolve. Again, you see the adoption of the mobile platform from probably, I would say, 5 years ago, where you have less than 50%, and within 5 years is triple the number. So the movement again is transcendent. I think a lot of people, a lot of startups, at least I've heard of, are going directly into mobile technology, bypassing web. Especially if you talk about fintech, lots of mobile type of startups are coming up. Mobile payment, peer-to-peer. There are even talks about blockchain technology being further developed here. We have probably at least 5 payment gateway here.
Vietnam definitely is a good place to have a startup, because this country that's born 1,500 startups until now, and this is a very potential country for about the population, humans, GDP, and also the cost of the human resource and marketing. As you know, there are 90 million in this Vietnam, and 40 million people go online internet every day. 20 million in Vietnam using the smartphone. So this is a very big market, potential market.
Vietnam is one of the first countries in Southeast Asia have venture capital from 2005. It's a IDG venture, which is the first $100 million fund.
In the next 5 years, I believe Vietnam is coming out as a interesting player in Southeast Asia, especially having a strong background as a IT outsourcing nation. I think it is naturally that a lot of startups will be also coming out in the tech industry. So this potentially draws like the big names to be interested in investing in Vietnam. for example, maybe Google, Intel, and all these others, they will be interested in Vietnam. But for me, I think the biggest attractive point of Vietnam is more like the M&A market in young startups. So that new ideas coming out, but lacking of global scale management, which will be a good, attractive, I would say, like deal for Western corporates to potentially just buy out startups, young startups in Vietnam.
Given the strong IT outsourcing background that Vietnam has, and then of course with the region, where the ecosystem is already developing in Southeast Asia, Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, for example, and I see this being Vietnam as the next country to happen.
The ecosystem among startups is still developing. The strongest community is in Ho Chi Minh, followed by Hanoi and Da Nang, which are actually the three major cities in Vietnam. Vietnamese by nature are very entrepreneurial. They love to open businesses, but which is mostly food and coffee shops. And startup as a term is not yet so popular, even though Vietnamese are actually very entrepreneurial. So, but we think there is a lot of talented engineers. People love to start their own business. There is a lot of problems to solve. So we believe that over the next 5 years, with the wave of new funding from venture capital that is coming in, Vietnamese startups will play a big role over the next 5 years in the economy.
The technology, I think, is one of the strong points of Hanoi, and to compare with other hubs is right now it's too young to have any comparison able to do it. And I think in the next 5 years it's more interesting to follow what's happening here. I see that there's a lot of activity coming out of it.
I see one trend now is the Vietnamese Americans who are living in US, they are coming back to Vietnam and they establish the office here or open the side project here. So, but in the next 5 years, I see some training for the first thing, maybe the Vietnam startup, they will go regional.
If you looked at some of the brand name startups from Silicon Valley, Uber, for example, the CTO is actually Vietnamese. Recently exited startup Cloud. The founder is Vietnamese, although they're overseas Vietnamese, but they're still Vietnamese with very close link to so-called the motherland here. And these are just two of many Vietnamese that are working for bigger name startups, like Airbnb, for example. I think this will translate very well in that I think a lot of young Vietnamese are looking to them, as inspiration, to knowing that first they can do it, and two, this will actually attract a lot of great entrepreneurs coming to Vietnam and to look for co-founders or to look for developers. I think in the next 5 years, what we saw in the last 25 years of how Vietnam has developed into an IT outsourcing standard outside of India. The next 5 years, you're going to see Vietnam being developed into a developer ecosystem in at least within the region and maybe globally. If you talk about startup being the new economy, then we are really looking at a shift in mindset, in how people view this industry. I think over the last 3 years or so, we are seeing a lot more younger entrepreneurs taking the chance, taking the opportunity with what the ecosystem is providing today, and for them to take a chance in developing the ideas. You know, and this works really well with what, you know, intrinsically, you know, is a Vietnamese culture, being entrepreneurial.
Startup ecosystem in Vietnam is slowly evolving into a interesting, attractive hub, and there are several investors here in Vietnam already. The biggest one is IDG. They are already here like over 15 years ago, and recently, a few years ago, there are new accelerators coming into the ecosystem, and it is still yet to evolve into a successful, I would say, like hub.
So we can say, to me, the Vietnam startup ecosystem is so new to the world, but we have the huge opportunity to make it bigger than now, because we have the good human resource, we have the good population. I mean, the market size in Vietnam is too large. We have the 93 million people here compared with another country in the same market. So that's the good one and a good choice for any company or any startup.